The restaurants you love, the food you crave, and the people that make it all happen. We tell their stories on the Paper Trails podcast with Albemarle Paper Supply.
What's going on, guys? How are you? Welcome back to the Paper Trail podcast. I'm your host, Nick Kalogeromitros, and I am here with my friend Cam Shulz. This is season 5, episode 2, and we are at HopFly Brewing in Charlotte, in South End of Charlotte. South End, right?
Fringe South End.
Okay.
Go Fringe South End, yeah.
Yep. So super pumped to have Cam on. We are new friends, you know, and even though we've done business together for
many years now.
Quite some time.
Yeah.
And so we met, you know, a month ago, whenever it was, and had a great conversation about your start, HopFly Brewing, the role that you guys play here in Charlotte. And so I was like, you know what? Let's get an episode under our belt. I love that. And so, Cam, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's start in the beginning. Where are you from? Are you from Charlotte? You're not from Charlotte?
No.
So tell the audience where you're from originally.
Yeah, been in Charlotte for about 5 years now, but I was born in Atlanta, lived in London for a couple years when I was really young, and moved to Chapel Hill when I was about 10. So my formative years were up there. Went to college up in the Triangle, lived in Ohio after college for a bit. Then I moved back down to North Carolina. First, Eastern North Carolina, a little town called Rocky Mount to start HopFly, and then I've been in Charlotte for the last 5 years.
Okay, London?
London, yeah. My dad was going back to graduate school, getting his PhD, so.
You were there for a couple of years?
Had a cool 2.5 years, yeah.
What years were that? How old were you?
I was like, 2.5 to 5, so
Okay,
I mean, I was
so you were
pretty young.
young.
But
Okay.
yeah, my mom had me on the she had me on the leash going through the underground system, so I wouldn't fall into the gap. But did a lot of cool things, and our family made a lot of friends, so we have a little bit of a home away from home when we go back. We always have some folks we can call on, which is
Love
nice.
that. You go back ever? Have you been back?
Every once in a while, yeah. It's probably been about 5 years, but
Okay.
we're heading back next summer actually,
Nice.
for a couple days, which will be fun.
My mom just went for the first time.
It's
over Christmas.
It's a good town.
They did
Yeah.
London, Paris for a week with my sister-in-law and my 2 little nieces, and so it was a little girls' trip. Anyway, okay, so Atlanta, London, Chapel Hill, kind of grew up there.
Yep.
Okay. Ended up going to college locally.
Yeah, so I ended up going to Duke. It's a kind of funny story, but grew up in Chapel Hill in a not like old school Carolina family, but in a family of Carolina fans. My folks are displaced Northerners, so it's not like we had deep ties to the institution. But yeah, I got an opportunity to go to Duke and jumped at it. And
What was that like?
Changed colors. Duke was an awesome experience. It was, I was kind of telling you before the show, it exposed me to a lot of things, and I was joking, I'm like, I didn't even know what investment banking or consulting was till like the end of my sophomore year. Whereas a lot of these kids come in from prep schools and, they know, their folks are in high finance and they've been in a prep school and they've had it ingrained in them what they're going to do when they go to Duke, and I had no clue. So I had a little bit of a learning curve there the first couple years, but long story short, kind of when push came to shove, I decided I wanted to get into business and take a role in a big company to kind of start to learn the business world. So that's kind of where I went career-wise. But all that being said, I love Duke. It's an incredible institution, and obviously great professors for the most part. Great students, and I think undoubtedly a great basketball team. So
Nice.
I enjoyed that.
Listen, I'm a Duke fan, so
There we go. Let's go, baby.
I'll side on your
right.
on your side in there. Okay. Well, and interesting you said about the investment banking. My childhood best friend growing up went to Duke and studied finance and became an investment banker
Really? There you
out
go.
in San Diego.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, you had mentioned something to me off camera before the show about just seeing families. Now, your parents didn't own businesses.
Yeah, folks both worked public health actually. So yeah,
Okay.
CDC down in Atlanta, and then various kind of public-private companies after that.
Okay.
But both did really incredible work. HIV/AIDS and various tropical diseases really did what I consider to be
Cool.
incredibly important work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wasn't exposed to kind of that realm of the world, I guess.
Sure, but you had mentioned to me that you saw a lot of families that had businesses, right? That would just come in and see their kids. Was that maybe your first taste of entrepreneurship, business ownership, small business ownership, flexibility, a little independence? Was that kind of the first time you had seen that?
I would definitely say so. I mean,
Okay.
I did I did like the lawn care businesses in high school and washed cars and like tried, I always had a little entrepreneurial itch. But yeah, honestly, it was at Duke when, I get there and I'm like, oh wow, there's this whole high finance corporate world thing that I almost didn't know of, because I'm just an 18-year-old kid who doesn't know anything.
Sure.
And it's like, oh, that sounds cool. But then as I kind of got through college, it was really, and it's a cool story that I always like to tell, but it's the families that I got to know. So the parents of my friends, the ones who were present and in person and were going to their kids, a couple friends who played sports, they were the parents who were going to the athletic events. It wasn't, Jamie Dimon's daughter was at Duke when I was there. Jamie Dimon wasn't flying down every weekend. He might be one of the best CEOs in the world right now, right?
Of course.
And that takes a lot of consistency and effort and time. But
That's
frankly,
wild, by the way.
Yeah,
I
pretty
know
cool.
that.
Yeah, but it was the folks who owned the liquor store, who owned the railroad supply company. A little bit more of these like salt of the earth like entrepreneurs who had built their own things and worked incredibly hard. But when push came to shove and they wanted to be down with their kids, like, they were present, they were there. And that was kind of the first thing for me. It was like, oh, okay, as I'm trying to like figure out a path, it's like, family's incredibly important to me. And, my parents always preached unconditional love and were always incredibly present. And I don't know how they did it, but they feels like they were always present, both of them, which I know they weren't, but somehow they made it work,
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, how do you have your cake and eat it too and do something really fun and challenging, but like ultimately, when my kids are in school age and college age, I don't want to be stuck in a boardroom or behind a desk. So yeah, that was the first thing, was sort of seeing these families and these entrepreneurs who had carved out really successful businesses that enabled them to really do what they wanted to do. And that was my first kind of light bulb of like, oh, maybe this is a path I should pursue.
I feel like people, Cam, don't even think about these kind of professions as options because it's not sexy, it's not glamorous.
Yeah.
The title behind your name isn't as whatever initials or whatever you want. But the results that people want a lot of times are given by these, you call them salt of the earth kind of professions, but it's just very boring, common businesses that produce income though.
Yeah.
It's things that people use and buy and need, right? And so what are your thoughts on that? Like, unpack that a little bit, because I guess I'm a little surprised because I feel like a lot of times, the human being just drives on status, but status doesn't pay you, right? Like your career, your earnings pay you, but status is such a big thing, I think, sometimes that no one thinks about a railroad supply business,
right,
or a liquor store business, but people buy liquor. People you know what I'm saying? Like,
it's a gap in the market, right? Like, and it's, now the buddies I have in investment banking and private equity, the millionaires, and this is becoming, I feel like, to be fair, more of a common narrative the last like 5 years.
Okay.
But it's like the millionaires and, tens of millionaires that they're meeting. It's the guys who own the HVAC company, the guys who own the plumbing company, the guys who own the paper company. Yeah. I don't know if you're there yet, by the way. Maybe soon.
We're working on it.
All right, let's go. But it is fascinating, right? It's a lot of these, my wife and I just call them like kind of unsexy businesses, right? And you remember Mike Rowe used to do Dirty Jobs, which was kind of cool.
Yes.
That was a fun show, and there was like a novelty to that. And you've always heard about the welders for oil rigs and how they can make, crazy, so you've always heard about this little bit, but as far as like actually building real businesses around some of these industries and sectors that, maybe aren't as sexy, it's just not, I don't think it's super commonly known. And again, I think it's starting to, maybe the secret's starting to get out because you're starting to see the success that some of these folks are having. But it's all, success or whatever, it's, they're critical components of our life too, which is funny. So it's like, great if you can give people something that they need and be successful doing it. Well, that's kind of the goal of, I guess, most entrepreneurs, right?
I think another interesting time that we are kind of in the world right now is that I feel like a lot of boomers are now aging out, retiring, and there's a gap of like, hey, this guy has a mechanic shop that if somebody doesn't buy, this will dissolve. You know what I mean? So like, there are opportunities. Like, I guess for anybody out there that's looking to get into the business world or has ambitions, I mean, it could be an option.
Totally, yeah.
Right? To like start looking at either where you're working or, you know, the place that changes your oil or your route. I don't, well, whatever, you know, trade, you know, that you're using, you know, people use that stuff as well. So interesting. Okay, I like that. So anything else that you learned from Duke, just besides being maybe, I don't know if culture is the best word, but just kind of seeing, you know, families, I guess that world, you know,
Yeah.
that Duke-esque world. Is there anything else maybe that stands out to you just from that experience being at?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there were a lot of just wicked smart, super hardworking people. And Duke, you know, had a little bit of work hard, play hard, but it's like, I mean, the joke there, you know, the library is more busy than the bars most nights of the week, right?
Really?
So there wasn't like, you know, we had our fun and we did our thing, but, you know, obviously I kind of got this entrepreneurial itch, but I also saw a lot of people who I knew were smarter than me probably, and also were willing to maybe work harder than me, right? So it's like, okay, well, all these guys are going out into the world. Like, I have to grind. Like, I really have to grind. I got to double down. I mean, that was another huge takeaway. And yeah, like I said, a lot of great people there, a lot of smart people there, a lot of hardworking people there. So yeah, it's like you see that, you're kind of like, oh, we're all at the same starting point right now, but I see the tools you have, and the work ethic you have. I better be locked and loaded and ready to go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like seeing your colleagues, their work ethic, their grind, their focus inspired you more.
Yeah.
To double click on the previous conversation about owning a business and seeing that, was that the first time you had thought about owning a business, or have you always wanted to own a business?
Yeah, I think that's like the first real time. Again, I'm like, when I'm in high school or when you're 17, like, I don't know, I was worried about plenty of other things other than owning a business.
Sure.
But again, I did the entrepreneurial things, but yeah, it was that time in college where I was just like, oh, maybe this is an option.
Okay.
You know? And if I'd been a little more strategic, I might have started an HVAC company or a roofing business that I could be selling upstream right now. But also, you know, it's like, I mean, I guess there's the success monetarily, but I didn't start a brewery to get rich. That was never the plan, and this wasn't exactly the market to be like, oh, you know, if the only goal was like, you know, untethered growth and prosperity and revenue, like I wouldn't have started a brewery. This was also really out of passion and wanting to do something that I really cared about every day. But yeah, I think to go back to your original question, those original kind of years at Duke was like, oh yeah, maybe I do want to start a business. I don't know what the heck it's going to be, but I think this could be something in the future I want to do. Okay,
perfect. All right, you graduate. First job is where?
Yeah, first job. So I worked in corporate retail. So I worked for Abercrombie & Fitch.
Okay.
As the parent company.
Nice.
I worked on the Hollister brand for most of my time there. So I did 6 years there in a corporate merchandising role. So I basically had, you know, again, going back to Duke, I was like, I want to maybe get into business someday, and I want a job that's going to be really well-rounded and give me exposure to all these facets of the business. And, you know, most jobs, maybe if you come in and you're a business analyst in the finance department, like you're reading, I don't know, department income statements every month, and you're trying to make recommendations on a pretty narrow set of what the business is really dealing with.
Yeah.
And I kind of was like, well, ideally I'd want to get, you know, a little more broader of a run on something. So yeah, I didn't really care about fashion or clothes, and I was at a career fair in my like ill-fitting suit trying to wander my way around and figure out what the heck to do. And a friend of mine who was a couple years older was back down recruiting for Abercrombie, and she like yelled at me and pulled me over, and she was like, hey, you would love this job. And I'm like, this is hilarious. What are you talking about? Like, I haven't gone shopping in 2 years, you know? My clothes are rags. And she was like, no, seriously. She was like, it's an incredible job. Like, I know you, I know the type of person you are. I think I know kind of what you're interested in. So I started looking at it. Basically, it was this leadership development program in merchandising. So ended up having a hand in everything from like, you know, preseason financial planning to raw material acquisition, overseas manufacturing, in-store merchandising and assortment, pricing and promotions, inventory management, you know, basically the whole season of a clothing line, seeing that start to finish, and then you're stacking, you know, 4 or 5 seasons on top of one another, and you're in the, you know, different part of each season for each product that you're working on. So honestly, yeah, long story short, I did that for 6 years and started at the bottom and moved up pretty quickly, had an incredible experience and really loved the work.
Okay.
Awesome team up there, awesome mentors up there, a ton of awesome learnings from up there, because anyone who's listening is probably like kind of LOL Abercrombie. But if anyone astute is listening, you know they're actually crushing it right now, and they've kind of completed like the most incredible retail turnaround of the last couple decades.
Who is this?
Abercrombie has.
Astute? Is that what you said?
Any astute listeners
any
of yours.
astute, okay,
Sorry,
okay,
any
I
astute
gotcha.
listeners are
Gotcha,
going to
gotcha.
say, oh yeah, we know Abercrombie's crushing it.
Yeah.
All the ones who are like, oh, screw Abercrombie. I'm like, you got to pay attention.
Any-
So it was awesome because when I joined, basically the new leadership that is still at the helm had just come in. And they basically, this was like, transformational leadership 101, but it was, when I joined and when these new leaders came in, it was kind of like we're coming into a broken company. There were a lot of problems.
Okay.
Started culturally, started with leadership, started with a whole array of, if anyone Googles Abercrombie and Fitch, you go back and see what happened in like the 90s and early 2000s and see the problems that were there. So I was there at this kind of awesome period of transformation and change, and it's hard to take, we were doing, maybe the company's doing $4 billion in revenue a year. It's hard to take a $4 billion business in a dying mall-based sector and turn that ship around.
Yeah.
It's just tough. And it's taken darn
It's a
near
big
close
ship,
to like
to-
a decade now, but it's been, but yeah, ton of leadership lessons, ton of learnings. And when I left, they hadn't even really turned it around yet, but it felt like the foundation was in place, and since then, they've really taken off.
Interesting. Okay, so obviously you mentioned culture and leadership and all that. Any other big takeaways from like your time there, or was the biggest thing, I mean, obviously tactically you're gonna learn a lot of stuff like, raw material, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Anything else? Like just that you're able to take and kind of continue to
Yeah.
in your business?
I mean, honestly, I think a lot of how I think now and how I operate now is really all informed by that experience. I mean, I read all the self-help books I can get my hands on and try to network with people like you. But as I really think day to day about how we manage this business and how we connect with our customers, a lot of that is informed from experience that I had in that role. And I think the biggest one is, customer centricity, like never forgetting who that customer is and why they're coming to you. And there's all sorts of like cheesy taglines, but the right product at the right price at the right time. It's pretty simple, right? It's like you do that right, you keep your customer at the forefront of your mind, like you should be in okay shape. That's a really good start.
Yeah.
And it's easy, but it's easy to forget that. I mean, it's easy for small businesses and large businesses and everyone in between to forget that. You get in the muck. We were talking earlier about, I get stuck behind my desk paying bills and running payroll and trying to just deal. It's like, no. Worry about your customer and make sure you're getting them the right product. So really just that extreme focus on customer centricity and being in touch with the market. I mean, again, it's easy, I think, with the internet and with even AI now, and you want to know something, and it's like, well, okay, you Google it. Oh, you ask whatever, ChatGPT. In my business, and we talk about this with our team, it's like, we got to get out. We can't learn anything sitting in these four walls. We can't learn anything talking to each other around a table. You want to know what's going on in the beer world? Cool. Go to a festival. Go to some cool brewery. You want to know what's going on in the Charlotte hospitality world? All right, Friday at 4 p.m., 4 hours. Here's like $60. Like go buy some beers. Go bop around. Go see what's happening.
That's a good point.
What are people getting excited about? And that was something that was really just drilled in me then. Was like, yeah, you want to know what's You want to know what's going on in the malls? The narrative is malls are down, the business is bad, we got to find a way to break through. Get your ass in the mall.
See what's going on.
See what's going on.
Who's there?
How are we going to figure this out if we don't have boots on the ground?
That's a good point.
So that's a big one. And then I think from a leadership standpoint, Fran Horowitz, who's the current CEO, is like a legend to me. She's an incredibly accomplished woman, and she's now been the CEO at Abercrombie for close to 10 years. Again, has overseen this big turnaround. But she's not the rah-rah leader that like maybe you always think of like, the General Patton or someone who's gonna like charge into the battle. Like she's the opposite. Like she's naturally not a super boisterous or loud person, but she is like calm, steady at the helm, and just consistent as hell. And she empowers her team to make the right decisions. She has very good direction. She relays that direction to people in a way that they want to get on her team. But it's just like consistency. and not getting off track and believing in what you're doing, and that's what that company's done, and they've done really well.
That's
so
awesome.
It's been fun to watch.
Have you met her?
Yeah, I met her, and back in the day, I used to be shaking in my boots, going to meetings with her, and presenting a line of clothing for t-shirts for teenagers, basically, and I'm up there telling her why we designed it this way and why we picked this color palette and where we're going to manufacture it and why I think it's going to sell well, basically. And then more recently, I've run into her actually a couple times over the last few years,
really?
Which is fun. And every time I'm always like, I'm sorry to fanboy, but I'm like, Fran, I love you. You're awesome. Like, you are so great. And like, yeah, you've made such a big impact. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, it's just, yeah, it was a great experience. Really smart, sharp people. And this is like, maybe I'm conflating things too much, but to me it even ties in a little bit when we're talking earlier about some of these like not sexy businesses you don't think about. I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know. I was an athlete from Chapel Hill, went to Duke. Everyone's going to high finance and consulting, and like I end up making t-shirts for teenagers, and that was the best job in the world for me. The best job, and it was a good corporate career. I could have done well there. It wasn't like a HVAC company, but like it wasn't the clear path.
Yeah.
But it was certainly without a doubt the best one. So again, just sort of like a tidbit for anyone listening. It's like don't always take necessarily the path that institutionally feels right for you. Like take the one that you believe actually fits what you want to learn and what you want to get out of it.
I love that. Two things that you said that I think was really good, Cam. One is I feel like anybody can learn a lot of things right where you're at. There's a book that I read a long time ago called Acres of Diamonds, and this guy had a small plot of land, and he was in Africa, and he had heard about like the diamond rush and all that back in the day, and he, instead of just looking in his backyard, he sold his house to go where everybody else was. Come to find out, his backyard had the most diamonds kind of in the area, and the whole point I say that is because I think people believe, oh, well, I'm just working at this place, I can't learn a lot here. Or I can't, like, they think there's limiting factors to, like, listen, you can probably learn a ton from your colleagues, your manager, your supervisors, your owner. If you ask your owner to lunch to just pick his brain to learn, I bet he would say or she would say, sure.
100%.
Right? I think a lot of times people love pouring into other people and helping them. And so I think that's a really good point you said. It wasn't the ideal track that you thought, but look what you learned in those 6 years from Fran and the leadership and the culture change and moving this $4 billion company. That's awesome. I love
cool.
that.
Yeah.
I think another thing that I took away from what you just said was, she wasn't like the enthusiastic kind of leader that well, listen, you don't have to be. Your personality doesn't dictate whether you're a good leader or not. It's, are you emotionally stable? Are you well, can you communicate well? Can you put the right team together? There's a lot of other things that factor in building a right team and a right culture than always being the loudest and the best storyteller or whatever. So I thought that was very interesting that you pointed that out. So I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
So 6 years, Abercrombie, new leadership. You're learning a lot about management, leadership, style, the whole thing. What made you leave? Did you kind of outgrow where you were at? Were you ready for a change? Was the brewery thing kind of culminating in the background?
Yeah. I guess all the above, maybe.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, so I started home brewing like right after college, so right when I took this job.
Okay.
No intention of doing anything with it other than, like truly, I was just like, you know what, I'm about to go work for the man. I need a hobby that I really am passionate about.
Okay.
And I'm in a new city and whatever, so I'm gonna start home brewing.
Okay.
So I started making beer at home. I did learn how to drink some beer at Duke too. That was the one other thing I learned there. So I was ready to increase my knowledge there and start making it. So I was home brewing purely as a hobby.
Okay.
Really enjoying work, crushing work, and everything was good. And then I started graduated college in 2011, so I started working that fall. So this is right as like craft beer is just like blowing up. I mean, it's like the roaring 2010s. It was like 2010 to 2020. It was just full throttle go in this industry. as most people can attest to,
Yeah.
who were observing, because we went from 2,000 breweries to 8,000 breweries in a decade.
Is that in North Carolina or in general?
That's nationally. I think actually we got up closer to 10, and now we're kind of coming back down. But I think probably by 2020 they were close to 8,000. So
wow.
Crazy growth. So yeah, I just had this hobby and I had this retail skill set, and then truly was kind of like, I've wanted to start a business. I'm making beer. I'm learning how to manufacture, sell, market merchandise. Maybe I can just combine those two things together and start a brewery. So there was probably a year or two there where I was like brewing at home, trying to work on a business plan, trying to figure out if this actually made sense. And I think as far as leaving the corporate world, I mean, kind of what like we were just saying, just being entrepreneurial with your career doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job and going and doing something crazy. Like I don't think about this a ton because there's no point, but I'm like, I was starting to just get a little burned out. I was working on the fashion side of the business. So like yours truly had to make informed statements about like fashion trends, which again wasn't my strong suit. Yeah. And like I'll work my ass off to do anything well, and I did, but it's just reaching the point where I was like, this long term isn't the right fit. Like I'm not going to be my best self if that's really the backbone of my role. Mm-hmm. So I look back and I'm like, I could have obviously I could have gone HR, I could have gotten in a different part of the business, I could have done something entrepreneurially with my career there that would have been awesome.
Sure.
And just another thing I would encourage people, it's like, look in your backyard first. If your backyard, your sandbox is your company that you're working at now, it's not like you got to do anything crazy, but have that lunch with the CEO or have that touch base with HR and just, in a way that won't undercut you. I mean, be honest with what you're thinking and what you might want to do, because you never know what opportunities exist.
Amen.
If you're a hungry, hardworking person in any organization, frankly, you're kind of going to be able to do what you want to. Like, kind of have that confidence. Like, if you work your tail off, they're going to find a place for you. And if you're not happy where you are, they're going to work hard to find a place where you are going to be happy. So do that. I didn't do that. I left and started a business. But yeah, I just kind of saw this fit of like the market was blowing up. I had this passion for the product. I had this skill set I felt like I could apply to it in a way that might give me a little step up on the rest of the home brewers starting breweries.
Okay.
So yeah, I started business planning. I knew I wanted to come back down to North Carolina, or North or South Carolina, but somewhere in the Southeast, closer to home. And that started kind of a multi-year process of trying to raise some money and figure out where we were going to open and what we were going to be called and what we were going to be about and why am I even doing this and all of that good stuff. You want me to jump into that part of it?
Go ahead.
So I mean, long story short, we're trying to raise a couple $1 million to do something like we're sitting in now.
Yep.
I was having trouble raising the money, lo and behold. So, and part of it for me too is I don't want to give up a ton of the company. So if you don't have a business and you want to raise $2 million, no one's going to give you that money just with like an IOU note. Yeah. Like, cool, I'm going to own a piece of this, right?
Yep.
And even then, I didn't want to give away equity. I was like, I want to be in control. I've seen way too many small breweries go to business because they have 4 owners who fight about stuff, and there's not enough cake at the end of the day for everyone to eat. So very long story short, we ended up in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Okay.
So about an hour east of Raleigh.
Yep.
This really cool mixed-use development called Rocky Mount Mills. This is owned by Capital Broadcasting. They own the Durham Bulls in Durham. They own American Tobacco campus directly adjacent to that. Okay. Just big time like media and real estate company here in North Carolina. So they were converting this, almost 200-year-old cotton mill, the second oldest cotton mill in the state. They were converting it into a big mixed-use work-lift play development.
Okay.
At the time, right, breweries are blowing up, so they're like, well, what do we need to kind of be the spark for this 1 million square foot of mixed-use space?
Was it 1 million?
Million, yeah.
Jeez.
It's crazy, huge, massive. 1 million square feet, mixed use, and then another 150 homes on the adjacent parcels. So big, very cool development out there. But yeah, they're like, what is going to excite people? Breweries, because it's like 2015.
Yeah.
So they kind of devised this little setup that we were able to jump into that was essentially like, they were calling it like a brewery incubator, but it was, they buy the equipment, they set it all up, you come in, basically rent the space, you rent the equipment, you pay them based on how much business you're doing. So when you're slow, you're not paying a lot. When you're busy, you're paying a lot more.
Okay.
But I'm kind of sitting there, and I'm living in Columbus, Ohio at the time. Again, struggling to raise money, struggling to find space, struggling to deal with just like the multi-year build out of most of these breweries. Like building anything sucks.
Yeah.
Just takes a lot of time and a lot of money. So to have these people who were like an hour and a half from where I grew up, basically saying, hey, we're building this big mixed-use space and we'll buy all your stuff, you know, essentially just like figure out your brand and, you know, come down here.
Yeah.
I'm like, hell yeah, let's go.
Okay.
So yeah, I left my job. I moved down there by myself in 2017 with a brand name and some fresh kegs and a couple other things. We moved into a 750 square foot space, which is small. So we had a 10-barrel brew house, so 310 gallons. A 10-barrel brew house, 2 20-barrel fermenters, 4 10-barrel fermenters, a 1-barrel pilot system, 4 1-barrel fermenters, and a bar the size of this table that my dad and I built in my parents' garage.
I love that.
And that was it. And that was all in this little 750 square foot space. There was no room to breathe. You're hitting your head on the ceiling. During the week, it's all a production floor, and on Thursday night, I'd clean everything up and put little ropes off and turn on these string lights and open up for business. Like it was the craziest little thing you've ever seen. So it was small. I owned everything.
Yep.
There wasn't much to own because I was renting all the equipment and renting the space, and I was the only employee at first.
Yep.
It's just one-man show, so doing all the brewing, all the packaging, most of the bartending. I was able to get a little bit of bartending help to keep my sanity. And that was the start of it, man. And yeah, from there we just kind of took off.
What did you learn from that? Like from the negotiating, from raising money, from, I don't know, is there any, you know, if someone's out there trying to own a business, looking to start, and just doesn't know, what are 2-3 things that you're like, you know what, I knew nothing about these couple things, and here's what I learned. Like even what you said about the whole equity part.
Yeah.
Like people may not know that.
Yeah.
Where if you have 4, 5, 6 partners in a deal, it's like, all right, well, maybe yes, on the front end you get help.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of slices.
Yeah, you gotta be 4, 5, 6 times as big
to make
it all work.
To make anything, right? And so I thought like that was just a really quick, you know, tip that maybe you guys caught or you didn't, but that I think when someone has experience or at least has studied business or how it works or partners or equity, you see that. So anything else that kind of stands out to you about like those early years?
Yeah, I mean, talk to people who have done it would be my biggest advice. And I ended up with a couple, you know, I maybe wouldn't even call them mentors, but just connections, like generally parents of friends of mine who had been in the business space, who had invested in small companies, who had just like, you know, they're on a bunch of cap tables, they understand how that works, they just kind of get that process, they've been through it. You know, do that, like get some of that firsthand knowledge. And there's a bunch of books out there that'll help you, but really just like talk to people in the space, or even out of the space you're looking at, just people who have done comparable scale, small business startups, and get an idea of, how do they go about their funding, what do they do? Because, I mean, we've been through now a couple other rounds of expansion, so I mean, like tenant improvement allowance and like, you know, rebates on rent and like all sorts of stuff that like, even then I didn't know about. I've started to learn about some of these other things, but just talk to people who have done it is like my biggest piece of advice. Again, find someone who you admire, go grab coffee with them. I think for the most part, entrepreneurs are mostly like open books. They're always trying to learn, and they're always happy to help other people learn.
I was just gonna say that, like, you would be surprised just by asking how much you can learn, or people just want to help, right? Like, and the funny thing is, sometimes even if they're in your industry, you know what I'm saying?
Totally,
like, Like they're like, you know what? Sure. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Here's what I did. Here's a couple of mistakes that I made. Don't make these mistakes, Cam.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah, and I think it's a good approach to have. I mean, total sidebar as an entrepreneur. I mean, it's a good approach to have. Like, don't. I mean, we make beer. You know, it's pretty simple. We have recipes, whatever. But like, I would always say, like, nothing that we do. Like, our recipes aren't the Holy Grail. Like, our SOPs aren't the Holy. None of that's the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is like, how do we all work together to accomplish that?
Amen.
So for the most part, it's like, I mean, I've met some entrepreneurs who are a little more on the like secretive side of like, oh, you can't know our special sauce. I'm like, well, dude, the special sauce shouldn't be replicatable, you know, right? Like the recipes, I mean, they do matter. Like we work super hard. I'm not gonna like maybe openly give that book to someone, but I'm like, oh, even if someone were to know how we're making that beer, like can they do it repeatably at the same level of quality? Can they do it, all these things at the right steps consistently? It's like you might have the blueprint, but I doubt you can build it right,
Yeah.
So saying, you give a great blueprint to a shitty house builder, that house isn't going to turn out well,
You're right.
So anyways, but all that to say, ask entrepreneurs because they, for the most part, they kind of get that, It's not, nothing that we're talking about is really rocket science, but it's just doing it at growing scale consistently, repeatably. That is really hard. And that's something that you can't really teach necessarily. You kind of just got to dive in and start doing it, I think.
Yeah, it's so interesting you bring that up, and I fully agree with you. I think there's nothing, like if somebody has like the secret sauce recipe or secret donut recipe or secret, I'm like, dude, there's so many recipes out there. Like, you don't think anybody can replicate what you're doing or make it better?
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like you said now, you may not like advertise, but like giving somebody some thoughts or some just, reflection, some feedback, I'm like, it's fine. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Okay, all right, so you
Yeah.
start, it's you, 750 square feet, you and dad make this little bar, you might have some help bartending. You're grinding at this point.
Grinding, yeah. This is the grind phase that no one ever really sees. But yeah, my now wife she lived up in Ohio, so she was the biggest sport in the world because I was basically like, babe, I gotta do this, and she was like, cool. Then I think eventually she was like, oh, you're actually moving, and I was like, I have to do this. So I was living by myself. She was still working in the corporate world, kind of figuring out next steps for her. But she was up in Ohio. I was in North Carolina, which was terrible, but also in a way was a little bit of a blessing because it was like 7 days a week. I moved down there, no friends, no family, no friends, no family, no significant other. It was just me and this little business. And obviously, I quickly kind of connected with the community. I started to make some friends, started to find some kindred spirits out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just grinding. And I had I had a business plan about what we were going to do, and I knew that the retail side of the business out there was never going to be enough to like help us grow. I knew we would have to start distributing some beer. So the whole idea was to start to scale, start to package some beer, and start to push that back to Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, kind of the whole triangle area.
Okay.
So those first 6 months really were me figuring out the business, the cadence of things. Yep. And again, it was great. I didn't have a ton of overhead. I had this really awesome situation where the more I made, the more I paid for rent. The less I made, the less I paid. So it wasn't like I was burning a lot of cash. All I was doing was burning my own time and my own will, which I had plenty of at that stage in my life.
Yep.
So really just, taking those first 6 months to like learn, start to figure out. Again, you have a plan about, we're going to open, these are our products. Well, it's like, once you start making products and trying to sell them, then you actually start to learn who you really are and kind of where we want to go and maybe what some of the gaps are in the market. So anyways, kind of started to figure that out. We hired Austin Baker, who's still in our team. He's now based here in Charlotte, but he was employee number one, and hired him maybe 6 months after we opened. Still with us. He's awesome. He's a legend. Nice. Anyone who knows HopFly probably knows Austin.
Okay.
So yeah, we started off, and when he joined the team, that was sort of like the first step. And I was doing everything. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, what do you want to do? Austin was a brewer. So cool, Austin, you can brew. Like, I'm going to really focus on sales and distribution. So I'll start driving the delivery truck and doing all of our sales runs. So we're only a 2-man team, but I'm gonna hustle and kind of do this more customer side of things, and kind of keep the house going in the back. And it's just the two of us for another year after that. Okay. And our whole thing, we always try to have demand outstripping supply. So sort of like, we can invest in growth when the market tells us it wants more beer from us. When that demand starts to pull us there. So it took us a year of just kind of getting through that next season. And then I was like, all right, well, we're seeing all these indicators are good. We're kind of growing. We're getting bigger. We're starting to establish a name for ourselves. People really like our beer. We're ranked really highly. We're going to cool festivals. So we hired a couple more folks about a year after Austin joined. And then at that point, it's just sort of like a half-life thing of growth. And for the most part, kind of hit the business plan numbers well. And we were probably 75% of our revenue, even at that stage, was distributing back from Rocky Mount to the Triangle.
Okay. Is that, I don't know much about the brewery industry or business. Is the model you have a retail and you're distributing? Is it 50-50? How does the model work? I don't know how it works.
So we've always, it's a great question, and everyone does it a little bit differently.
Okay.
There's a lot of like 100% retail breweries in the state, really small little, brew pubs if they have food, or just little tap rooms that make their own beer on site, and they just say, we don't want to worry about distribution. We want everyone to get our product here, and that's cool. But obviously, your sandbox is those four walls. So.
Yes, and you're geographically bound by who's traveling to come to your. So you have some cap at some point of what you can do.
Yeah, exactly. And even again, 10 years ago, when craft beer was booming, there was a little more excitement and intrigue to like, oh, this is a taproom only brewery. You can't buy their beer anywhere but there.
Okay.
Some of that excitement has waned a little bit. So again, if that's your model, it's great when times are good, but maybe when the industry turns on you and people aren't as excited to drive out and drink your beer, it's like, well, what can you do?
Yeah,
you don't really have any levers to pull.
Yeah. Good point.
So and then you have big breweries like Red Oak off I-40 out in Burlington.
Right.
They're probably 95% distribution, I would guess. And they have kind of a cool but funky tap room there, but their game is distribution. Like they're not really worried about much else.
Gotcha.
So you have a little bit of everything.
Okay.
And and most small breweries, however, you start with a retail first idea. Margins are much better here. Beer margins are great over the bar. So generally the idea is you start with that, kind of build up a pretty decent like gross margin retail business, and then you can start to layer on distribution.
That makes sense.
But for us, we knew in that location we couldn't do it. So we were like, we have to start kind of inverse. And that meant with distribution as our leading kind of revenue stream. So, man, we just leaned into that, kind of kept growing the team. Also, like our retail, talking about retail and tap rooms, like it was a bar this big in an unconditioned 750 square foot warehouse that was chock full of brewing equipment.
Yeah.
It wasn't that appealing of a space to go
Sure, I understand.
So we were always going to be limited by like, how many people really can go into this little dumpy brewery in Rocky Mount to buy product, right? So we had to lean on the wholesale side. We always wanted to build a tap room out there, so we kind of started plans for that about 2 years after we opened.
Okay.
So at this point, maybe 4 people on the team. There's this really cool building right next to the brewery in Rocky Mount, 2,000 square foot, beautiful old mill building with great, natural wood floors and wood everything, just like beautiful.
Yeah.
So we build out that tap room and it opens the first week of March in 2020, which is 9 days before all the COVID closures. So we kind of had this like big lead up of, 2 years essentially of working, all to kind of culminate in this retail presence, which opened, was beautiful, was busy, was great. Our best retail day of all time, of course. And then almost immediately it was like, yep, you got to close that sucker.
Oh gosh.
So at that point it was, all right, well, we'll take that off the table. And luckily we kind of hadn't, I always say like we hadn't gotten fat on that revenue stream yet, which a lot of breweries do. You kind of get fat on the margins in the tap room and you kind of let some things slide, but we were pretty lean. We were always lean because wholesale margins are lean. So we operated lean. We didn't have time to get too overwhelmed with the retail side. So that closed. We're like, all right, well, back to wholesale. We know this game.
Yeah.
So we did that through COVID. Did really well. Even at this stage, I knew we were going to need more space. Like we were bursting at the seams. We had leased up. We probably tripled or quadrupled our manufacturing space at that point out in Rocky Mount, but it just like wasn't enough for us to kind of keep up with that demand that we felt. So we started looking at other opportunities, and during COVID, I kind of had this idea, again, trying to run a little counter to how most people do it, which is like spend millions and years of your time trying to build something from scratch. But I kind of had this idea of like, well, a lot of breweries are going to go out of business in COVID. It's a tough time. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to find a brewery who's got a different business model from us, who couldn't hack it in this climate.
Sure.
If they go out, maybe we can just move in and
100%.
Everything's kind of turnkey-ish.
100%,
and we can just rock and roll. And sort of like we took this unique first step by starting in Rocky Mount. Now we can kind of take this unique second step by doing this.
Okay.
It's a very different ladder than most breweries do. So that's what we did. We started looking in Raleigh, started looking in Durham, started looking in Charlotte, and actually the building we're in now is one of those, is a former brewery. So it used to be Unknown Brewing, which was kind of a Charlotte staple for the 8 years they were around. And again, their model was just not I guess not quite resilient enough to get through COVID amongst whatever other challenges they had, and they kind of wanted to get out. So yeah, we came in here and basically did asset acquisition and actually did a really thorough renovation of the front of house. So basically everything brewery forward looks totally different than the prior brewery. Really wanted to put our HopFly stamp on it, make it our own. And then in the back of the house, we're able to keep all the utilities, all the kind of expensive stuff. And
Perfect.
We've added like 15 tanks since we moved in. But we were basically able to move in and start brewing right away.
That's awesome. And you moved into when?
So we opened here, let's see, this would have been, we opened spring of 22. So we took possession fall of 21.
Okay.
We were basically shovel ready, and we had we had filed all of our permits under pseudonyms with the city so that the Instagram sleuths couldn't find us. Although one of them did actually, but he kept it quiet. So we'd done all the A&E work. We were like shovel ready the second we took possession of this building, which was pretty rare. So I think we took possession September 1st, and we had our soft opening in February, which is pretty cool.
So say it again. You had pseudonames for permits?
Yeah, so we had all our permits and stuff filed with the city before we even closed the acquisition.
Okay.
Just so that we'd be
Pretty
shovel ready,
smart.
so we wouldn't have this sort of, yeah, I mean, we were leveraged out, you know, for us at the time, it was like, our whole piggy bank was like 150 grand of outlay to have everything ready to go. So if that deal fell through, we had no recourse. So we were invested in seeing that deal through, but we felt like the seller was too, so took a little gamble there. But at that point, time is money, so it's like, I mean, you can just wait, but then it's like, what are you gonna do, sit on?
Yeah, you're
I mean,
right.
rent here is 25 grand a month, so if we're delayed 6 extra months, we're in the same boat, so we might as well just rock and roll. So we were all teed up, we had all the permits ready, so yeah, we were shovel ready, and as soon as we closed, we got cooking.
Any big takeaways from this deal that you made? Finding real estate, markets, anything that you kind of like take away from that whole thing?
I mean, I think it's, you know, again, if you're in the entrepreneurial space, it's like always meet good people, have good conversations, and don't be afraid to follow up. I'd met a gentleman in Denver back in like 2017 or 2018. He's an attorney, does a lot of craft beer work, and I'd had one conversation with him. But from that one conversation, I was like, you know what, this guy strikes me as someone that like knows things and knows people and knows happenings. So when I kind of set out to, and I had this notion or idea of like, hey, we want to buy an existing brewery. It's like, it's not like usebreweries4sale.com. Like, it doesn't exist. Like, you see the odd one up on these like business sale websites, but like, you know, brewery owners are proud. They don't want to list their brewery for sale. Once you do, business fall. Like, it's weird. So it's like
Everyone's proud, yeah. I mean,
they're proud.
no one wants to.
So if you want to buy an existing business, it's like, how do you do it? And this parlays to any other type. I mean, any type of entrepreneurship through acquisition. Like, the best deals aren't going to be listed out there. You got to go find them.
Amen.
So anyone who does want to go buy that HVAC contractor, you better get comfortable talking to people who own HVAC companies.
Yes.
But for us, I called this guy out of the blue who I'd met, and I was like, listen, man, we met. You may not remember me. I got the sense you're the kind of guy who knows things. And he was kind of like, yeah, basically like, yeah. So I was like, cool, this is what I'm trying to do. Like, if you can help me put this together, you know, whatever, you'll have my business for life. So literally 2 months later, he hits me up and he's like, hey, I got a live one for you. And it's, you know, as easy as that, basically.
I love that. What a story.
It's a cool story, but right, there were like 100 of those conversations. So that one worked out.
Yeah.
But you never hear about the like 100 other ones who I'm like sitting there
point.
racking my brain. I'm like, I'm gonna hit up this guy, hit up that guy, and talk to that person, talk to this person. It's like, you just have to like,
keep going.
Don't be annoying, but you kind of got to be persistent, and you got to pull the strings when you have them. But again, it kind of just goes back to like getting out from behind the desk. So it's like, if you're sitting there behind the desk, you're like, well, I'm gonna grow and I'm gonna do this. It's like, you're not gonna find that on the interweb stuff, you know? It's like, get out and talk to people. Oh, you met that person. You had a beer with that person. Cool. They know you. There's a little rapport. Great. Go like build off of that and see where that can take you. So that was the biggest thing. But I could talk for too long. I'm already talking for too much.
That.
But
No.
Talk for a long time about learnings from this. But you know,
that.
that's the biggest one. It's just like, as far as like kind of sourcing that deal and that opportunity, it's comes down to networking and relationships and not being afraid to kind of ask for what you want.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep. I think another thing that you said prior to even this conversation that just popped in my mind again was just about how important it is to stay lean and just don't be over leveraged. And, you know, I mean, even to this day, we're 17 years into our company and we don't pay ourselves that much money. I mean,
Yeah.
like the business is healthy. Like if there's opportunities that will come up, we'll be able to go attack it and, whatever it is. And so I think it's a really good point that when business starts getting a little bit better, that doesn't mean you have to take extra distributions or bonuses or income. Let the business be healthy.
Yeah.
Like leave some money back into the company. Like you may need it a year from now that you have no idea that you may need it for.
Totally. And I mean, growth, and I always say this too, like growth is expensive. So if you're trying to grow, it takes cash.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, going back to the equity thing, whatever, it's like, yeah, I want to own this company so I can control what's happening. For that, everything goes back in the company. Like half our team makes more money than we have and will, because anything left over, if we want to keep growing by 30, 40% annually, it basically takes every bit of cash we're producing to keep that going. So having that control and not having to pay people out. I mean, you get saddled with the wrong kind of debt or the wrong kind of equity interest, and like you will get sucked dry. You will not have any options about how you can grow. You will just you'll be working for some other person,
for them.
Essentially, right?
That's a good point. I mean, you see that even on Shark Tank sometimes, where like a shark will want X percent of the each product. It's like, yeah, like that sounds good, but that's how you make your money. You need that extra margin to put back into the business, and so it's a really good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so spring of 22.
Spring of 22, we opened here.
You opened doors, and so we're coming on to 4 years.
Yes.
Right? So here in a couple months will be 4 years.
Yep.
Okay, you've been here for 4 years. I think you've done a fantastic job of establishing yourself in Charlotte, in South End, in the space. Anything that you've learned about branding, about marketing, about being in with the city. I know Charlotte FC. I know you guys do a lot here with the team. I think maybe the team had just maybe started. Maybe the prior year or two.
Yeah, they started right when we opened.
Yeah,
so we had like our grand opening, and then the next weekend was the first ever Charlotte FC game. So that timing was not planned, but it couldn't have worked out better.
The stadium is down the street. So I think there's a lot of clever things that you've done, Cam, to just put yourself in a good position where people know what you. The space is beautiful. By the way, Cisco, throw some B-roll. The space is gorgeous.
Appreciate
so
it.
Check it out. If you guys have not been, you guys got to stop by and check out the space. There's an upstairs, which is where we're at now. Downstairs, obviously. Anything you've learned the last 4 years of because you scaled.
Yeah.
You went from 750, 2,000 to I don't even know what this is, but it's definitely bigger than 2,000.
Yeah, I think we're on like 26,000 square feet now.
That's what. So anything that that you didn't think that you would learn and you did, or I didn't think, I don't know, getting into the community was that important, or maybe you did. I don't know. Is there anything that stands out to you that 4 years of being here?
Yeah, I think just we've had to be very like humble and willing to take feedback. By feedback, I just mean what the market is telling us, but we've had to be humble, take feedback, and just strike that balance of being true to who we are and understanding what additionally we have to do in this market. And even in Rocky Mount, it was sort of like the value prop was simple. Hey, we open our doors, we have great beer, come drink it.
Okay.
Again, there wasn't a whole lot of experience. Our tap room got shut down with COVID, which took a while to get that actually back up and running. But it was, our whole model was just, we have great beer and good energy and good vibes and good people, but it's really about the beer.
Yeah.
And you come here into this scale of space, it's not just about the beer. And
that's a good point.
Which is, again, sounds kind of remedial, but like we didn't have a grand marketing plan. We didn't have a grand community engagement plan. We didn't have any of that stuff when we opened here. It was kind of just work, get open. Once we opened, it was like, oh, now we got to figure this out. But like I said, I think, and like I just kind of alluded to, the one thing we've always been consistent with is always trying to be a warm, energetic, welcoming place for the community to gather. And in Rocky Mount, that was so important because Rocky Mount didn't have a lot of that. So when we opened there, it was just this like kind of little magical time where all of a sudden this community that hadn't had a lot of cool stuff going on had a cool little brewery pop up and a couple other little businesses, and this whole development popped up. And it was just like, this is the place to be. And it was like, our mission now is to just make this a fun, enjoyable place for the community to come hang out, enjoy great beer, but just kind of like be the destination in Rocky Mount. So kind of we opened here without any notion of exactly what we were going to be. We didn't have an event schedule. We didn't have an event manager. We didn't have live music playing. We didn't have any of that. It was just we opened our doors.
Yeah.
So it's taken 4 years of like hard knocks to kind of figure out kind of who we are and what we are, but all still kind of based on just having a warm, energetic environment, a welcoming space, and trying to serve our community. So we do all sorts of events during the week with a bunch of different groups. Just like, hey, we got the space. You're a cool group of nice people.
Let's do it.
Who's local? Let's do it.
Yeah.
We're here for you.
I love that.
Grab a couple beers if you don't mind, but we're good, right? And then obviously our proximity to the stadium is huge. And I grew up a huge sports guy, still a big sports fan, but Charlotte FC, Panthers are the two big ones, obviously. And we've done as much as we can to lean into that, mostly just because we love it, but also because we get busy for this game days.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Been able to do a lot of cool partnerships, a couple awesome collabs. Brant Bronico, who I know has been on the show, Ashley Westwood, the captain, Chico's Lamuerte is the kind of super fan guy. Like, we've done some awesome collabs within the Charlotte FC world, and we work with their supporters groups. We do watch parties here, we do tailgates here, we do all sorts of cool stuff.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of the sports element has been a big part of it. In addition to just kind of these kind of day in, day out,
love it,
community-centric events.
Last two questions. First one, what's the future of HopFly? What do you see coming on? What are you excited about? Is it more distribution? Is it, new lines? I don't know. What is it?
Yeah.
Is there anything you're pumped about that you want to share to anybody, listening about, the next 6, 12, 18 months? Is there anything on the horizon?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just we're grinding to keep growing, but that's looking more like, maybe growing by 20 or 30% rather than 60 or 70%.
Which is insane, by the way.
Which is all big, yeah.
Those
all
are
big,
insane numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so for me, it's like we're kind of seeing the industry slow down a little bit, so we're less focused on just go. But we're the largest self-distributing brewery in the state now. We take a lot of pride in that. So we have our own fleet of trucks, and we service basically mountains to coast. So we're really focused internally on just making that distribution infrastructure as sturdy as it can be, so that we can really get our product fully coast to mountains. We're pretty good now, but really trying to get that distribution infrastructure finalized. From a product standpoint here, we're really focused on our lager program. That's probably what I'm most excited about. Okay. So, we're kind of known for hazy IPAs and fruited sour beers, but lagers have been our focus for about the last year, and they're really starting to hit. So if you're gonna be coming in the tap room, look at that lager half of the board. It's gonna be bigger and better than ever, and those are the beers that we like drinking, that I think a lot of our customers like drinking too. So, product-wise, focus on those lagers, and then at least for us, kind of internally, it's really working on that distribution infrastructure and making sure that's as good as it can be. That's really what's kind of fueling that growth right now.
Cool. Last question, just for more of a business owner, just if somebody listening to this wants to have a better year this year than they had last year, maybe they had a tough year, maybe business layoffs, I don't know, there's a lot of things happening in the market. What do you recommend, being now a successful business owner, growing to 3 different locations per se now, juggling family? I mean, there's a lot of things that you're doing well. If somebody wants to have a better year this year from last year, in your experience, from your perspective, from your lens, what would you recommend to them to just make sure things go better? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think a lot of thoughts, but I'm not like crazy big on goal setting and like these are New Year's resolutions and goal setting, whatever. Like some people take that really, really far.
Sure.
But I always think there's like kind of objective metrics and subjective metrics. So I can sit here and say, well, I want growth to be 30% or I want this. But like the more important ones are like, what do I want to prioritize in myself, my team, my leadership style, and what do I want this whole unit to look like in 6 months or 12 months? So I would think about some goals there, right? Like even if you're not a big goal person, you have to. And don't think like crazy pie in the sky. We're talking just like what's going to move the needle. So it's like generally speaking, I'm trying to think of some good examples.
Can I pay off 10 grand in debt? Can I save $5,000?
Yeah.
Can I get one promotion? Can I read 5 books? I don't know, anything.
Yeah, just give yourself some goals and like go get them. I mean, that's how it starts. Like you gotta hold yourself accountable. And if you have trouble doing that, go find a partner or a mentor or another entrepreneur who will.
That's a good point.
Because I think it's really like wins are contagious and losses are contagious. So and I'm big on like momentum. So it's like if you're hitting wins and you're feeling good, you're working at a higher clip, you're gonna be producing better for yourself and your team. And the same goes if you're not sleeping well and you're overworked and you're missing budget and you're stressed out, like it's like a self-fulfilling loop either way.
Yes.
So get yourself in that positive loop and pick some wins and just go get them. Because like if you can't do that, you're not going to be successful, right? So pick some wins and work your ass off to go get them. And then on the other side, again, there's some, those are all like kind of like objective or, numbers you can hit, but also, think about some personal things, and whether it's, again, with your partner or with your team, just what are some maybe principles you want to abide by? Just a couple, super simple, but, I want to listen first. Great, listen first. Every single meeting, make sure that you're listening first before you talk. If it's focus, you find yourself, I get a little bit lost and I don't want to be in the weeds, so I'm like zoning out. It's like your team sees that, man. Focus, write it in your notebook, just do it. And again, those are things where like, no one's going to tell you necessarily. They might, but just pick some things where you're like, where, again, the only thing inhibiting you is yourself. You want to be successful, you want to do stuff, cool, you just got to hold yourself accountable. Do these couple things. So yeah.
That's awesome.
That's it.
I
love
that.
And find an accountability buddy.
Yeah.
Find someone who can help you with that, because it's not easy. It's easy to get off track, and sometimes just having that other person who you have to have a meeting with, or you have to talk to at the dinner table. Like sometimes that other person's really just gonna keep you on the positive side of that loop rather than the funk side of that loop.
It's a great, that was fantastic advice. I love that. Accountability, I think, is everything. You're always gonna let yourself down, but it's why you go to the gym with somebody else.
Yeah.
To push you extra rep, extra set, so I love that. Awesome. What a podcast, Cam. That was incredible. Season 5, episode 2, HopFly Brewing. If you guys have not been here, if you guys don't follow them on socials, do all of that. They always have something going on. We met because there was a Hornets event here. Literally,
Yeah.
It's just, these guys are, what an amazing, just being involved in the community, right? Reaching out, setting things up, networking. Fantastic. I love it. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys in the next episode. Over and out.